My name's Roger Bloor. I'm the owner and sole employee of Clayhanger Press, the publishers of the Newcastle Stanza Group anthology, Poetry Before Anything. And I'd like to welcome you to this evening when we're going to actually launch two books. We're launching the anthology, but also launching Oliver Leach's excellent poetry collection, Quandaries, which are written in beautiful calligraphy by Oliver and illustrated by himself. Both publications are available from Clayhanger Press, and the website details will be at the end of the launch. Obviously, in normal times, we'd be getting together to have a convivial launch and a celebration of these books, but as it is, we're having a virtual launch, but perhaps in happier times we'll manage to have a second launch for the books and get together in person. I'm really pleased that Mel Woodend, the Staffordshire Poet Laureate, has agreed to do a short introductory video for the anthology, and following that we'll hear from the poets who will read some of the poems from the anthology, not all of them, because I hope you'll dash out and buy a copy from Clayhanger Press, and then we'll have the launch of Oliver's Quandaries collection. I hope you enjoy the evening, and hand over now to Mel Woodend to introduce the launch of Poetry Before Anything.
Hello, my name's Mel Woodend. I'm the Poet Laureate of Staffordshire 2019 to 2022. I was delighted when Roger Bloor got in touch with me to let me know about the new anthology, Poetry Before Anything, by the Newcastle Stanza Group. It's a fantastic collection published by Clayhanger Press, which I know is local to Newcastle under Lyme in Staffordshire. And I was really privileged to be sent a copy of the book to read in order to be able to say a little bit about the book and about the poems inside it. So I'm going to start off just making a few comments about some of the poems that I've enjoyed the most. I really loved the poetry of Oliver Leach and the way that he captured the visual imagery of nature through his Three Horses poem. It really stood out to me and was beautiful. And then on Watershed, again, Oliver Leach has managed to show the way that Staffordshire is landlocked, but link it to the rest of the world through the waterways. And again, that just brought the images alive in my mind. I really enjoyed Victoria Sherratt's Blackbird's question line in her poem, Nothing Much. And she says, "But I hear a blackbird's question, fill the sky, fade out the hum of traffic." And I think that's just something lovely that you can relate to if you live in a city environment and you hear that little bit of nature sort of coming into the environment outside. I live in a very urban environment and it really sort of resonated with me. Later on in the book, there was quite a lot of playfulness in Julia Franklin's poetry, and I really liked the intertextuality of Sea Fever and the playfulness of all of her poems. I really enjoyed reading those and they made me smile. It's a rich collection with such a variety. There's thought-provoking poetry, there's funny poetry, and there's a lot of nature imagery as well. I enjoyed reading Mike Fisher's thought-provoking poem, Inhumanity to Madness. It sort of looked at the way that mental health is treated, or has been treated over the years, looking from 1800 to 1968 to 2020 and questioning things. I found that a really thought-provoking piece. I'm not going to read it because I don't want to give too much away, but I am going to share a haiku by Alex Harford. Looking at the current times that we're in with coronavirus, I found this really reflective and thought-provoking. It's called Mask 19. The most inhumane thing about this pandemic, not seeing your smile. And I think that's something that can sit with you, and I think a lot of people can really relate to that. Then I went on to Roger Bloor's poetry, and he spent a residency writing as the resident poet of Trentham Gardens. And I really enjoyed his reference to John Warland's wave sculpture He's written a poem about that, and I love the way that the sort of industrial man-made sculpture is combined with nature, and it makes for a beautiful poem and a beautiful piece as well if you've ever had a chance to visit Trentham Gardens if you're local. And if you're not, make a trip, it's lovely. And then again, Roger Blaw's poem April, I found that really evoked a beautiful picture of an April scene, a spring scene, and used a lot of nature imagery to evoke that in my mind. So I know I haven't obviously covered every single poem in the book. I couldn't possibly. I'd be here for like 3 hours making a recording. But I just wanted to say how much I have really enjoyed reading this collection, and I highly recommend it. It's very well edited and constructed, as well as the poems inside it being beautiful. So thank you very much for inviting me, Roger, and the Newcastle Stanza Group to read your book and to make an introduction. Good luck with the book.
So our first poet is John Williams. John studied English at Durham, taught English in schools and colleges, and lectured in English at the University of Chester. He's published 3 poetry collections and is the stanza rep for the Staffordshire Stanza Group. John Williams.
Hello, I'm John Williams. I'm going to read the poem Clean Air Act. My route to low carbon led to tomato pips in the ductwork, dim stairs and Earth Day. I swapped labour slashing gadgets for hard ones, selling the Hoover for a brush and dustpan. A blip or a touch of sun, I held a table sale of appliances, incandescent lamps, pods and phones. The bread machine that gives out gas. Once the TV crashed, I put the screens to sleep. Dusters shrank my footprint and I jumped to the electric fan. Haunted by the smoke genie, I learnt where the ice caps melt, and fat shame cards they give away in town. This poem's entitled Bronze Age Cup. Ramped up in the tabloids, stash from the past, drug trace found in a Bronze Age cup. A gift from beaker folk to the space age grows lilac in lab light that shouts heroin. You'd think a magus zonked in the turf house, kissed the rim and uttered an oracle, the trace of dope that prophesied, gone dry. Much like our online psychic blogs, the voice that needs the phone's green charging light, touch of wood or brush with lady luck. That we're still superstitious is a miracle, down to wars and woes that get to print. We know the spectra line where heroin burns, for all the teacup dregs that talk to us.
Our next poet is Oliver Leach. Oliver was born and bred in Newcastle as a retired teacher of English and philosophy at a local school. He's busy nowadays with calligraphy, art and writing in different genres. He says, unadventurous cooking, gentle walking and struggling to learn the clarinet in a foreign language. His book Quandaries, which we're launching today as well, is a collection of poems, calligraphy and artwork, which was published this year by Clayhanger Press. Oliver Leach.
This poem is called 3 Horses. It's set a few years ago at the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, not far from here in North Staffordshire, near Langott Lane, which is a mysterious place not far from Loggerheads. And on this day, a cold, blustery day, we saw 3 horses silhouetted against the sky. 3 horses. The shortest day of the year, cold, blustery, past a windmill with no sails, down track-to-track paths in a mud-lined, hedge-hemmed lane. Over a gate we spied the Wrekin, slumped like a drunk on the horizon, and under bare trees, hidden by bracken and brambles, the caves, hermit hovels if you believe such tales. Then above the wide slope of a field, sharp against the clouds, 3 horses, solid and still, as if beamed from far away, or statues conjured out of vapour, marble out of mist. We stared at them, they at us. The wind louder gave the clouds an extra shove, and over the star we left them, winter apparitions, to stay or melt back into sky. The second poem is called Watershed, not the watershed on television at 9 p.m, but the place in the land, and again there's one in North Staffordshire, where on one side rivers flow to one sea, and on the other side rivers flow to the opposite side of the country. Watershed. Landlocked in Staffordshire, I walk the watershed. On one side, Fair Oak, source of the Sow, that flows into Trent to Humber, out east into far North Sea, merging with shallows over Dogger Bank. On the other, Mare, source of the Tern, that pours into Severn to Bristol Channel to swell the deep Atlantic, bearing eels to blue Sargasso seas. Two raindrops, twins, on an English cloud, slip, fall, gather pace through yielding air, side by side, close companions in descent until, divided by a leaf, they turn to east, to west. One lies in Haddock Gills beside the Zuyder Zee. One cools toes dipped from a lilo in Guadeloupe.
Our next poet is Victoria Sherratt. She grew up in rural Wiltshire, studied French literature and language at Manchester University and taught for a number of years. She's trained as a relationship therapist and turned to poetry in later life. Her poems mainly, she says, reflect her personal life as a woman, wife, mother, grandmother, as well as topical issues. And she also admits to a sideline in comic verse. Victoria Sherratt.
Watching the Tour de France. We share scant shade of small trees on a parched verge. Strangers, united in stifled waiting. We check our watches. Children scuffle the brittle leaves. The spiky embrace of metallic heat grasps our bodies under the noon sun. Without warning, two motorbikes thunder, burst into the hot stillness, tow a gushing torrent of colour and whirring wheels. A blurred flood of focused power fills the road and is gone. Nothing much, says the birdman, binoculars hung flat against his chest. Just a single swallow, must have come from northern Russia. But I hear a blackbird's question fill the sky, fade out the hum of traffic, the uneven ground beneath my boots, the damp crushed grass, the puddled mud. I stop, inhale the hilltop air, watch the cloud roll back one distant inch to allow a spoke of sun to pass, ignite the scene. I pull off my woolly hat, receive the blessing of the morning breeze.
And now we have Lynn Leach. Spent part of her childhood travelling abroad with her parents, graduated from Manchester and taught English in Sussex, and then returned to Staffordshire to teach, marry, lecture and raise 3 children. Now retired, she enjoys poetry, art, fiction, writing and freehand machine embroidery. Lynn Leach.
Hello, I'm Lynn, and I'm going to read you a poem called At Hobgoblin Gate. Hobgoblin Gate is a place near Hanchurch. At Hobgoblin Gate. Shadows stretch. Dusk crouches in the dead nettles. Breathing, 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 breathing in wood sorrel's ears, thickens on tree roots. Oaks embrace themselves, twisted weight branches overreach, fall, fragment, fracture, crumble underfoot, fungus-filled, ankle-turning strew. At Hobgoblin Gate, bushes brush and gather, reel in all paths to darkness. Coarse grass whispers of the lost, betrayed to night's silent deeps. No moon, no stars. A twig snaps. And the second poem I'm going to read is one I wrote after I'd been on a pottery decorating course. And this is called Japanese Raku. Grasp the smooth swirl of biscuit clay bowl, turned, open-mouthed in amazement, palm nested, a made thing, its creaminess invites. Glazes, blue, green, white, milky silica flux of metal oxides, an apothecary's brew. Stir, fill, swill, pour, dip. Fingerprints left like treetops along the line, as eternal as the pot, as ephemeral as clay. Hell burns it to white ice, incandescent, redeemed by devil's tongues, vengeful, it flames embracing wood, acrid. Transmuted cream to black, green to bronze, its final incarnation unforeseen, its existence baptized with tea. If broken, its imperfections were healed with gold.
And now we have Julia Franklin. Julia's worked in radio and TV. She's now an actor specialising in voice work. For the last few decades has been recording audiobooks. She did an MA in creative writing at Manchester Metropolitan, and the novel she produced appeared as a turn-up for the book in 2012. And she's also recorded novels of other students on the course and hers, all of which are available on Kindle and Audible. And she runs a small company called Books Are Loud. She's got a second novel coming along, but in the meantime she's writing poetry too. Julia Franklin.
Chimney Boadicea. Chimney Sturgimikin lifts a mighty hand, and the doors slide back like soldiers, their queens to command. And the shoppers down at Tesco stand back in shock and awe. All gloss and wheels and whirring noise, she rides to the shop floor. Chimneya's Danzig JXL's a prince of grace and power. Its awesome speed, a breathless 25 kms an hour. With an automatic gearbox and automatic brakes, it conveys Chimneya to the fresh-baked bread and cakes. Chimneya parks her trusty steed diagonal in the aisle, her tattoos warning others that they'd best not cramp her style. She hops off, fleet and nimble, her seat rotates and slides, and sauntering off to make her choice, she flicks her hair and glides. She climbs aboard, reverses, and zooms off to health and body. Showing off her drinks holder, she gargles Coke and voddy. Scooping up shampoos and creams, she crams her scooter spaces. She flicks her lights to high beam and drives fast to far-off places. At last, she's done her shopping. Danzig's loaded to its height. She steers her way to payment, queues all melt away in fright. She drives straight past the checkout girl. She waves and glares her smiles. Ooh, I never carry money. I'm the queen of all the aisles. Sea fever. I must down a sea again, a cappuccino and a pie, and all I ask is a tall cup and a stick to stir it by, and the real kick of coffee strong and my white hands shaking, and a chalk mist on the sea's top, and the muffins baking. I must down a sea again, for the call of the caffeine tide is a wild call and a clear call that may not be denied. And all I ask is a plastic lid to save my drink from flying, and a serviette and a cardboard sleeve to save my hands from frying. I must down a sea again in this Custer's Starbuck life, with a panini and a big baguette I can eat with a plastic knife. And all I ask are coffee shops from Inverness to Dover, and a quiet sleep on a leather couch when the big sea's over.
And now we have Sheila Tams. Sheila's always liked poetry and began writing poetry around the age of 10, inspired by Rupert Bear and Pam Ayres. She enjoys writing witty ditties for birthdays, leaving do's and special occasions. She recently retired and her interest in poetry has been rekindled. And she's had her poem Neck End included in the Bringing It Home anthology published by United Press in 2014.
Believe in yourself. It's no use thinking of if only. Here and now has to be the way. The past is in the past now. Just live your life each day. Let your mind wander if you want, but don't take things as read. You'll learn to let your thoughts go and not to keep them in your head. Enjoy the simple things in life. Get out and go for a walk. It helps so much to give a smile and to listen as well as talk. The sunshine makes you feel good. Take deep breaths and enjoy fresh air. Singing birds and fragrant flowers. Let the wind blow through your hair. Don't despair in how you feel. Don't do everything to the letter. Be confident and believe in yourself. Trust that things will soon get better. Life and time are precious. You really have come far. The future's what you want it to be. Just believe in who you are. The diet starts tomorrow. Have you seen Willpower? I'm afraid I have to say, I really need to find him, as I think I've lost my way. My taste buds crave for chocolate, my thirst buds need red wine. I really must stop eating cake, though I must say I feel fine. I'm bordering overweight now, I need to exercise some more. If you should see Willpower, please send him to my door.
Our next poet is Mike Fisher, born in 1944 in Birmingham. Attended the George Dixon Grammar School in Birmingham, Birmingham Medical School. Moved to Stoke-on-Trent for his house jobs, and then he says wisely joined general practice in Newcastle under Lyme and is now retired. Mike Fisher.
Atlantic Challenge. Skipper, on deck, the kite's blown. Shredded, red, black, green and white, torn remnants through the letterbox, then stowed below. Straightway, hoist the number 3. Within minutes, calm, the winds divide, sails flap. Hold steady or we jibe. Thai curry in a yellow bowl, Atlantic takeaway. Passed hand to hand along the cockpit, comes with spoon. Replete, the empty bowls pass back. Below the galley sink on gimbals, 45 degrees. Tests, washers, wipers, expertise. Water beckons 3 days out. The rain comes down as water drips from off the helmsman's nose. Unexpected, music fills the boat and deck and lifts the mood, maintains morale, as thoughts of Peter's Bar and solid land intersect with concentration on the task to hand. The Quarry. Form 4, we learnt of millstone grit and sandstone heave from out the sea. Today, pebbles smoothed by passing feet tumble the unwary. Birch and stunted oaks enfold the slopes, and yellow flowers of gorse proclaim a time for kissing always here. In heather undergrowth a pheasant hides. Above, a buzzard circles, and below, the sparrow hops from twig to rock to shrub. a laceration in the hillside. Memories when my son climbed up the quarry side, ignoring risk, adventure uppermost. Today he fears for me. The virus crown shapes social isolation, more distance than these 40 years.
We now have Alex Harford, as well as writing poetry and short stories. He enjoys lots of things, including visiting places that don't seem real, photography, 90s video games, and tickling shoe bills under their beaks, and lots of music. He's also a member of the Congleton Writers Forum, and his poetry and flash fiction have been published in various local anthologies, and he also has his own website, alexharford.uk.
This is the first poem I wrote about 15 years ago. I've revisited it and edited it for this anthology. It was inspired by Scottish waterfall and glen. Stolen. Beautiful. This is not a dreamy delusion. It is not a hazy hallucination. Sun shines from blue skies, bewitchingly blemished by white wisps, an unimagined paradise. Serene, sprinkling, splashing, dousing, washing, nourishing water hushing, traversing with ease, for it is free. A smell so cool and fresh, cup your hands and taste purity. Air, water, flower and stone in harmony create perfection. The Garden of Eden's far richer relation, flourishes of heathers and trees and grass. Shangri-La's European cousin, but this one is real, a green utopia of untouched elation. Breathless, if I wasn't below the clouds, I'd believe this was heaven. Boom! Angered skies, overcome by greys, rain cascades, thunderstorm. This gentle white spout escapes its boundaries, crashing irrigations, flooding the plain. The fools have stolen my heart can stay. I've popped on a face covering for this very short poem in the haiku format. Hopefully it's just a reminder of what will soon be a memory of these times. Mask 19. The most inhumane thing about this pandemic, not seeing your smile.
And then finally, it's me, Roger Bloor. I couldn't resist having some poems in the anthology despite publishing it. I've poetry published in a variety of magazines and anthologies and coordinate the Newcastle Stanza Group. So these are two of my poems from the anthology. They were both written during my time as poet in residence at Trentham Gardens. Miss Elizabeth. The Miss Elizabeth boat at Trentham Gardens, £2 each way. I saw Miss Elizabeth set sail today, pulling away from the landing stage. No bands or cheering crowds to see the boat untie and sail away. No passengers against the rail to wave farewell to native shore. Turning with ease, she left the dock, then gathered speed and headed north. Soon rounded the distant island head, and then at last was lost to sight. Her epic voyage began. Who knows what travels and adventures lie ahead for those intrepid travellers who paid £2 to board. And the last one, entitled Trentham Gardens. The flowers turn their heads in stunned amazement, admiring the colours and the vast array of forms and styles of hats that blossom in the summer sun. Wide sombreros, soft hats, hard hats, baseball caps on back to front, floppy felt and Panama, outback, laid back, fancy plain, knotted hanky, fold up, fold down, lacy, racy, boater and cloche. But then the winner of the show appears, a gold medal bloom without a doubt, the red-hot poker, bald and sunburnt, no-hat gent in the midday sun. Thank you. In addition to launching the anthology, we're also launching Oliver Leach's excellent poetry book, Quandaries, which are poems which Oliver has written and illustrated, both with his own artwork and is written in his beautiful calligraphy. It's available from Clayhanger Press, and other outlets are also available. Oliver Leach.
Hello, my name is Oliver Leach and I'm here to tell you about a book of poems I've written called Quandaries. But first of all, I'd like to thank Roger Bloor for agreeing to publish Quandaries under the imprint of his press, Clayhanger Press. Quandaries is a slightly unusual book of poems because all the poems are written in calligraphy, and together with the poems are quite a few illustrations. And both calligraphy and illustrations are both done in gouache, which is a type of opaque watercolour. The first poem I'm going to read is called Happenstance. And it's about the sense of mystery we sometimes feel about who we are and why we are who we are. Happenstance. Life is contingent. It happens to be. I might have been you. You might have been me. Each moment is sacred. Might never have been. It comes out of nowhere, is silent, unseen. It comes out of nowhere, has nowhere to go, as light and as fleeting as flurries of snow. There might have been nothing, no time and no space, of the world and its trappings, no imprint, no trace. And yet, who knows how or why it should be, this moment so strangely now happens to me. The next poem is a much lighter one, and it's about that part of the body which we tend to neglect and take for granted, feet, in praise of feet. Today I watch my feet in admiration. For hours they held me vertical and bore my weight, never once complaining. Puddles they circumvented or leapt across, to uneven ground they offered an angled sole. At streams they reached for stepping stones, on ice slowed and steadied, and for steep inclines, whether ascending or descending, they made adjustments as they saw fit. Tonight, as I remove my socks, I shall give thanks to my feet, both to the left foot and to the right, for bearing and for guiding me through all the livelong day. And the last poem is called Some Men, and it's about a contrast between, let's say, on the one hand, the alpha male who was always accumulating and acquiring, and on the other hand, the mystical, monkish type of person who's going in the opposite direction. Some men, as they grow older, like explorers trekking to the pole, put on layer after layer after layer. Some men, as they grow older, like children passing the parcel, peel off layer after layer after layer. Some men, as they grow older, are heavy, like humpbacks breasting the sea. Some men, as they grow older, are light, like twigs afloat on a stream. Some men, as they grow older, enlarge, like marrows basking in the sun. Some men, as they grow older, fade, like a band marching away. Some men, as they grow older, stiffen and set, like plaster. Some men, as they grow older, grow younger. And I'd like to end by showing you some of the illustrations with calligraphy. So here's one about a poem on butterflies. The next one, understandably, is about a poem called Poplars. And the last one I'll show you the double spread here. Is a poem about a church or church going. Thank you very much.
So that's the end of our launch of these two publications. Hope you enjoyed the evening and that you've been inspired to purchase your own copy of either the Stanza Group anthology or Oliver's Quandaries, or indeed both of those. They're all available from Clayhanger Press, the details of which are on the screen at the moment. So thank you very much for joining us, and don't forget that you can send your comments to the poets, congratulations to them, using the chat function on the YouTube site. Thank you very much, and you don't need to have a safe journey home because you're there already. Good night.